Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery here. We get together with our distribution partners most weekday mornings. In other words, 8 o'clock Central between Mondays and Fridays to discuss strategies, tips, success stories. The truth is we're keeping our ears to the ground, listening to questions, issues, concerns that any of you bring forth, and then we bring that to the training to address for the entire group. As I think you know, we have two types of distribution partners. We have regional vice presidents. That's the leadership team. We aspire to have one RVP, one regional vice president per state. Their role is to build out the team of white label partners. And thus the second role are the white label partners who are actually educating the clients, bringing the clients on. With that being said, today's discussion is very much oriented to the white label partners and talking about client terms and conditions. So if all's going well, my screen's shared and we're going to go through the topic. It'll be a brief topic today on client terms and conditions. So let's cover just a bit of background and then we'll dig into really the meat of the discussion today. From a background perspective, it's important to understand that white label partners control the client terms and conditions. That's the same as saying the contract. And so that is true that the white label partners control the pricing and all other language in the contract, because the contract is between the white label partner and the client. So we're not party to the agreement with the client. As a white label partner, you're going out to the marketplace under your brand, your umbrella, and you're actually contracting with the client. That's important to understand. That gives you power, that gives you flexibility. We have provided each of you, and if you don't have it, be sure to let us know, but you should have access to editable contract templates. And so mainly we're talking about access to capital and the SBA Express program. So in your white label Dropbox, you should have access to editable Microsoft Word documents so you can make the changes. And we're going to talk about some changes you might want to consider in a moment. So if you're a white label partner and you don't know how to find your Dropbox, it's crucial that you let us know. Our support information is here at the bottom, same as always, but we'll get to that in a minute. So if you are a new white label partner, well, I guess even if you're not, but if you are a white label partner, regardless if you're new or not new, probably the first thing that you want to do is take the agreement template or templates, depending upon which campaigns you're wanting to take out to the marketplace, meaning access to capital or SBA Express specifically, and get the contract ready, because you're not open for business until you're able to contract with a client, because we don't want to work with clients under verbal terms. We want to have written agreements with clients. That protects you and that protects the client. So we all are operating under the same understanding. I could go off on a soapbox, a side discussion about how people can sometimes be a little weird. And if you don't have a contract in writing, then they could very well come up with, in their own head, kind of delusional ideas of what they wanted from you. And then if you don't provide those delusional ideas, then they're mad. That's why we want to have a written agreement so everyone's on the same page. Now, once you have the agreement template with any edits that you want to make, which we're going to get to edits in a second, then you need to be able to be ready to get the client under contract. And so that typically happens one of two ways. Either you take that agreement template that you've modified and you use some sort of e-signature program. There's many of these, but the most common are probably DocuSign and Adobe, but there's others. So in other words, you're able to send it to them, and they don't have to print it off and sign it and scan it. No one wants that cumbersome mess, but it's as easy as them clicking and they can provide an e-signature. So that's scenario one. Another option, which I would argue is a better option, is to have a landing page. And with the landing page, then the clients can accept the terms and conditions with a few clicks of their mouse. So that's the background. Now we're going to get into some things that you might want to consider changing on your client agreements. But before I get to those considerations, we're not to that yet. Is everybody with me on these basics? Let's summarize those basics. You should have written contracts with your clients, number one. Number two, we've provided you an editable template in your white label DropBox. So you have the template. You don't have to go hire an attorney or create something from scratch. You can make any changes that you want to your client agreements. And then ultimately, you need to provide a mechanism for the client to contract with you, to agree to those terms, if you will. And that's commonly done one of two ways: an e-signature program like DocuSign or Adobe, or having a landing page with online terms and conditions that they can accept. Everybody with me here so far? Any questions, comments, concerns on that? Okay, so let's move forward. Now we're gonna get down into some considerations. Again, what I stated before, I'll restate. These are your contracts between you / your entity and your clients. You can make any changes you want. So this is not some all-inclusive list. I'm just explaining that you can make any changes you want. It's up to you. Now, the one change that we do need to make is to add your contact information, because to no surprise, the templates has our information. Well, you're not acting as an agent of ours securing client contracts. That's between us and the client. That's not the case. You do not have that authority. That is not what you should be doing or are allowed to do. But instead, you should certainly put your information on the agreement. Maybe that makes sense. Maybe that's obvious, but we've had some folks not assimilate that. Therefore, any other changes, meaning anything other than getting your information on it, are optional. And let's discuss some of the areas or aspects that you might consider changing. So I'm not here to encourage you to make any other changes. I'm not here to make it more complicated or difficult, but we're covering the basics, right? So pricing certainly is one that you should give further consideration to. So let's address this in two bullets: SBA Express first, access to capital second. So for SBA Express, what you know is that when a client signs up for the SBA Express program, you're going to pay us to develop a loan package $999.99, half upfront when the client enrolls, half after the client gets their SBA loan. Therefore, anything that you charge more than that is your profit. And you could even add a performance fee based upon the amount of capital they raise. And in the SBA Express world, you keep 100% of that. So you could make no changes to the SBA Express template, or you could make changes to the pricing, but changing the base pricing is going to give you upfront dollars, and changing the performance fee, or adding, I should say, adding a performance fee, because there's not one, will give you back end money. Are there any questions on how you can change pricing for the SBA Express program? Okay, we're good there. For access to capital, now the truth is we have access to capital and then capital ready. Both of them are listed on Schedule A of your white label partner agreement. The only difference between access to capital and capital ready, which we sometimes call guaranteed financing, is when is the deposit collected from the client. Access to capital, the money is not collected, the deposit is not collected from the client until after their first tranche of capital, so they're financing. So there's no upfront cost for access to capital. Conversely, if you want them to pay that deposit up front, there's a different agreement. We often call it capital ready or the guaranteed financing program. Everything else is the same. It's just the timing of the deposit. So access to capital, it's deferred. There's no money up front. The capital ready / guaranteed financing, as we call it, is paid to you up front. That's your option, either way. Now, with but I'm just going to refer to access to capital because that's what most of you are doing. So with it, obviously, you can reduce or increase the deposit. The deposit is the fee paid to you by the client for the development of the loan package. Now, in truth, we develop the loan package for you. That's our job. But the contract's with you. You're collecting the money from the client. You make money off of that. And then we're like your slave labor in the back room doing all the work for you for a pittance. So the first variable of pricing on access to capital is the deposit. And by default, it's $2,500 paid after the client receives their first tranche of financing. And you can make that smaller. You can make that more. You can even eliminate it if you want. It's up to you. Secondly, that deposit, you can make it a refundable deposit or not a refundable deposit. Let's talk about that for a moment. Some of you say, I don't want to make it refundable because it eats into your profit margin. I disagree, because you control the whole pricing structure. I think you'll get the best reception from the marketplace making it a refundable deposit, but you build that into the performance fee. So let's say that your normal performance fee would have been 10%. Well, if you're refunding the deposit out of that 10%, yeah, it's reducing your profit. That's not necessarily what you would want. So what could you do? Instead of being simplistic and say, oh, I don't want to make the deposit refundable, I would make it refundable, but I would increase your performance fee by enough to absorb that, whereby you are coming out even or ahead. Think about when you go to like McDonald's or a restaurant, you get a combo meal. Do you think that you're getting the fries or the drink for free? No, you're not. They're not giving you anything for free. They're just packaging it differently. And that's what I'm suggesting to you. If I were you, I would collect a deposit, and the $2,500 in my mind is fine, but you could make it more or less. I would make it a refundable deposit, which it is by default, and I would package it into your performance fee. Because your performance fee, by default, I think the agreement says 6 or 10%, I don't remember, but you can make that more or less, and you can build in whatever expenses that you need to cover. You got a few of you that are hiring sales reps. So now you need to pay the sales reps. Well, you got more people involved. So you might want to increase the performance fee so you can cover your marketing cost, your labor cost, if you're making the deposit refundable. You're in control of that, right? Are there any questions on pricing before we move on? And you just type the question or comment into the Q&A. It's like a chat box of Zoom. Just type it into Q&A and we'll address it. Any questions on pricing? Okay, we're going to move forward then. Disclosures. If there's something else that you want to add, additional content, you can, because it follows the rule. The rule we said earlier is this is your contract. You can make any edits to it you want, as long as, of course, it's set up to be your contract, not ours. So let's say that clients are interested in interest rates. And so maybe you want to put in there that they won't have to accept any funding with interest rates above 4%, or whatever twist you want to put on it. Now, the truth is they don't have to accept any funding offers at all. But the point is, if you wanted to add disclosures or other content, go for it. By design, it's a turnkey agreement ready to use, other than changing the contact information. But if you want to make other changes, make other changes. I'll tell you when I get to the bottom of the page why we're having this discussion today, but we'll leave that for a moment. Collis says he's charging 15% performance fee to cover the cost, and that's fine. It's called price elasticity. And I don't think that you'll have less people sign up. And I wouldn't do 15%, Collis. I'd do 14.99. You know, it would be below 15%. But regardless, you control the performance fee. And yes, I know a lot of you doing 15%. Next, the capital raise guarantee. In the access to capital standard agreement, it guarantees $100,000. But some of you have already figured this out, and that's one of the reasons I'm talking about it now. You can change that to whatever you want. Do you want to guarantee them $250,000? Maybe that would draw on more clients because it's a bigger carrot for them. Maybe you want to guarantee them 500,000. Even bigger carrot, might draw in even more people. Maybe you want to go all in and say, we will guarantee you a minimum of $1 million. People are going to be, wow. So that's up to you. You control any of the terms in the agreement, other than making sure it's your contact information, and you can change the capital raise guarantee. I guess you could even eliminate it if you wanted to, but I don't know of anyone that's done that. All right, and then also sometimes we get asked about refunds. What's the rule that we said? The universal rule is it's your contract between you and the client. So if you want to give them a 72-hour out, or a 2-week out, or a 30-day out, or whatever you want, right? It's up to you, whatever you want to make it. Now, of course, our disclosure here is there's 2 sets of agreements, right? There's the agreement we have between us and you as a white label partner. And then the second agreement is what you have between you and the client. Everything we're talking about here are the changes that you can make between your agreement with the client. All right, who has questions, comments, concerns? I'm going to give you a moment to type those in, and then I'll tell you my story of why we're having this today, because frankly, this was not intended to be our topic of the day. So I was talking, I'll tell you the reason why anyone's typing. I was working with a new white label partner who, a wonderful lady, and she also wanted to enroll as a client herself. And so what we ask our white label partners to do is, if they want to go through the capital raise process, follow the process, take the agreement template, edit it the way that you're going to use for your clients. And then I know it seems kind of weird, but then execute that, right? So you have a contract technically with yourself. So that way we're going through the process. And with that, of course, then the white label partner is controlling all of these aspects. Well, I didn't know that this white label partner was desperately confused. And I think there's some cognitive challenges that she may have after I've gone through this, but she had commingled just about everything that we've ever done or ever said in her mind. And so then as we were working on her file this morning, she was irate. And I'm like, Rosa, I don't understand. I mean, the things that you're saying and the things that you're asking aren't the way that it works. But it's like she went to a car lot, let's say a Ford dealership, and she picked some aspects of the Ford Raptor and the Ford Escort and the Ford Bronco and the sedan and mixed them all together. And it's like, that's bizarre, right? So we want to clarify. All clients should be under contract. However, you control the contractual terms. Really, you don't have to make any changes if you don't want to, other than just making it your contact information, because the agreement's between you and them. But you just simply can't come back to us and say, oh, the pricing's too high. Well, what do you mean? You control the pricing. I had a lady yesterday that asked me about that, and I said, don't ask me what your pricing is going to be. I mean, we can give you recommendations or examples, but look in the mirror and ask yourself, if the price is too high, then lower it. If the price is too low, then increase it. Or if you feel like there needs to be other disclosures in the agreement, add it. It's your agreement. If you feel like the capital raise guarantee should be higher than 100,000, then change it. Make it $250,000. Make it $500,000. Make it $1 million. If you got a real good client and you want to guarantee them $10 million, man, it's between you and them, right? If you want to add or remove, well, there aren't any, but if you want to add conditional refunds, great, add it. So that's the beauty of being a white label partner. You're not an agent or a rep of ours. You're going out to the marketplace and you're controlling the client deal. That's putting you in position of authority and power and control. That's why we're growing so quickly. All right, does anyone have any questions, anything that wasn't clear? on our topic today. I'll summarize and then feel free to ask if you want. All clients should be under a written agreement between you and them. We've provided you editable templates. You can get clients to sign the contract with you using e-signature programs, or even better yet, having a landing page with terms and conditions, and we can get that set up for if you want. Just contact us and we'll help you. Other than adding your contact information, there's really nothing else that needs to be changed to the agreements unless you want. And so that could be anything that you want, or everything or nothing. But certainly things to consider would be if you want to change pricing, if there's any disclosures that you care to add, if you want to change the capital raise guarantees and or the refund conditions. All right, so who has questions, comments, concerns? This may seem kind of common sense, but some of our white label partners weren't quite clear on this, and that's important that we're all on the same page, that whatever it is that you feel comfortable taking to the marketplace is what you should do. Now, we can always counsel you on what we've seen work and not work and avoid pitfalls, but it's your business. You are the CEO of your business. You're a white label partner. You control the deal. Any questions, comments, concerns? Just type them in. Next week, we're good up through Friday. We're doing a workshop in Houston on Friday, so we will not have an in-person, or I'm sorry, we won't have a live Zoom on Friday. We'll be in Houston. Any questions, comments, concerns? If you have individual assistance you need, recommend texting us. We're usually pretty good about getting back with you quickly. Collis is asking about the performance fee for access to capital and maybe for SBA Express. There is no general rule. It's whatever you want. So SBA Express, we don't have a performance fee on there. So anything that you add is 100% yours. On access to capital, I think the template says 10%, and some people are just fine with that. Others will increase it. We have one guy, he goes up to 50%. He'll charge 50 cents on the dollar. So if the client raises 100,000, he charges them 50,000. I mean, that's up to you. I'm not judging him or judging you. Maybe you want to do it for free. Maybe you want to eliminate the performance fee. Maybe you say, no, that's not what I want to do. You know, they pay up front and then you're not wanting to collect a performance fee at all. Hey, that is your decision. Your decision. All right, well, we'll get after it. We're close to the end of the month. I see a lot of production. You all are doing great, incredible month, record-setting month for us. Whatever we can do to make sure that you're making money and helping people, let us know. And we'll see you back on Monday morning. Have a great day.